Ever watched a horror movie about wild experiments being done on animals? Whether it be Deep Blue Sea, Piranha, or something like today's subject, these films always have a sense of genetic engineering or just mad science thrown in for good fun. Sometimes these can actually be some of the more interesting types of animal attack films, while others find themselves severely lacking in the quality department. But what happens when you put an already highly aggressive animal into a science program that makes it even more aggressive? Well, today we're going to talk about a forgotten thriller before the years of CGI that I think a lot of people may get a kick out of. Shakma is a 1990 cult horror film directed by Tom Logan and Hugh. It stars Roddy McDowall, Christopher Atkins, Amanda Weiss, and Ari Myers. The movie centers on a group of people working inside of a massive building. After injecting a serum into the brain of a lab baboon, the group closes everything down for the day after he freaks out and attacks one of the young people. They think they put Shakma to sleep after he does this, but when they begin a Dungeons and Dragons styled game where they travel all over the building looking for clues to win, Shakma gets back up and starts a killing spree inside. Now look guys, when it comes to this sort of movie, you can actually find a ton of other primate-style genre films that are way more popular. Everyone knows about King Kong, we just talked about Mighty Joe Young, and who could forget Frank Marshall's adaptation of Michael Crichton's Congo from 1995. But Shakma is a little more interesting because it's done completely with practical effects and, for the most part, get this, they used a real-life baboon. Typhoon is his actual name, and he's pretty much the star of the movie after already getting some airtime in another movie we've talked before on the channel in the past, The Fly. But see, it's in Shakma that the little guy really has a chance to shine. The best way I can describe this movie to you guys is like a low-rent horror film about a little monster that you kind of expect it to be, only instead of feeling like a monster movie, it plays out way more like a slasher film. Shakma is kind of the baboon equivalent of Jason Voorhees or Freddy Krueger, and in fact, the setting reminds me a lot of Halloween 2, with the way the baboon kind of stalks about the place in the dark, and everyone is going in and out of rooms finding their friends' bodies all over the place. It's a lot like Halloween 2, at least as far as like design wise goes. The cast is honestly really likable, by the way. Y'all know Roddy from his Planet of the Apes days, which is kind of fitting to see him playing a professor here. But even the leads do a good job. The character Tracy you might recognize from A Nightmare on Elm Street as Tina, but you might also recognize her from something I haven't gotten around to talking about just yet. She actually played a reporter in a few episodes of Highlander the series. All in all, with some well done practical effects, a nice story and cool setting, Shakma is a little bit better than I think it has any right to be, which is why I wanted to talk about it. And it's almost like you're watching a smaller scale version of Carnosaur, only a little more likable, if I'm honest. That's not to say that this thing is a hidden gem or anything like that, don't get it twisted, but what the movie offers is a genetically engineered baboon slasher film where the little guy goes on a killing spree in a building with some pretty memorable scenes. Now look, everything boils down to a rather depressing third act, which did surprise me a little bit. They get really dark at the end of Shakma, and yeah, some of the decisions they made surprised me, I will say that. I didn't think the movie would get that dark, and when you find out how they handle Shakma in the end, you'll think back to how Lex outsmarted that raptor in Jurassic Park and probably smile the way I did with how it all played out. Everyone's likable, the practical effects are pretty good, but for the most part, you're just gonna be watching a monkey banging on doors and like trying to kill people, which is funny in its own right, and yeah, it's enjoyable. For a low-budget monster movie from 1990, Shakma is actually a pretty fun movie, and it surprised me by how effective some of the kills were, and of course, it's nothing really to brag about, but it's definitely something that I think monster movie fans will get a kick out of. So if you're ever interested in checking out a lesser known cult film from the early 90s about a killer baboon, give this one a watch. You just might have fun with it.